Once upon a time, in a small Igbo village nestled between lush forests and rolling hills, there lived a beautiful woman named Nena. She was well known for her grace, intelligence, and kindness. Many men in the village admired her, and many sought her hand in marriage, but Nena had a particular desire. She had promised herself that she would only marry a man who embodied certain qualities. He must be handsome, strong, wealthy, and mysterious. She wasn't interested in ordinary men. Her mother, Motsi Adama, would often say, "Nena, be careful what you wish for. Not every handsome or wealthy man has a good heart." But Nena's mind was set. "Mama, I know what I want. When the right man comes, I will know," she always replied with a confident smile. The mysterious stranger. One day, during the village's annual New Yam festival, a stranger appeared in the marketplace. He was tall, dark, and exceedingly handsome, with eyes that seemed to hide deep secrets. He wore rich, flowing clothes that shimmered in the sunlight, and he walked with the confidence of someone used to power. The villagers had never seen him before, but his aura and presence captivated everyone, especially Nena. The moment their eyes met across the marketplace, Nena felt something stir deep within her. This was the man she had been waiting for. He seemed to possess everything she had ever dreamed of: charm, wealth, mystery. The man introduced himself as Obinna, a wealthy trader who had come from a distant land. He spoke with a voice as smooth as honey, and his words seemed to weave a spell over Nena. In no time, they grew close, and it wasn't long before Obinna asked for her hand in marriage. Though her family had their reservations, especially since they knew little about Obinna, Nena was resolute. "He is everything I've ever wanted. I will marry him," she declared. Her mother, worried but unable to change her daughter's mind, reluctantly gave her blessing. A strange marriage. The wedding was grand. People came from nearby villages to witness the union of Nena and the mysterious Obinna. The bride was resplendent in her attire, her heart filled with joy. Obinna, too, looked every bit the perfect groom, and as they exchanged vows, he promised her a life of wealth and happiness. After the wedding, Obinna invited Nena to his home, which he said was in a village far from hers. "You'll love it there," he told her. "It's peaceful, and I have a grand house waiting for you." Without hesitation, Nena packed her belongings, said goodbye to her family, and set off with her new husband. The journey to the unknown. As they traveled, Nena began to notice something strange. The path they followed seemed less and less traveled, and the forests around them grew darker and thicker. The birds stopped chirping, and the air grew cold. But Obinna reassured her. "Do not worry, my love. We are almost there." Eventually, they arrived at what appeared to be a deserted clearing. There was no grand house as Obinna had promised, only an old, crumbling hut in the middle of nowhere. Nena was puzzled. "Where is the grand house you spoke of?" she asked. Obinna smiled, but it was no longer the warm, charming smile she had fallen in love with. His eyes darkened, and his voice grew hollow. "This is my home," he said. "And now it is yours too." Nena felt a chill run down her spine. "This cannot be," she whispered. "Where are the servants, the wealth, the comfort you promised?" Obinna laughed, a cold, eerie sound that echoed through the trees. "Oh, my dear Nena, did you not realize? I am not what I seem. You wanted a mysterious man, and you got one. I am not of this world. I am a spirit, a ghost from the underworld." The truth revealed. Nena's heart pounded in her chest as she stumbled back. "No, this cannot be true. You tricked me," she cried. Obinna's face began to change. His handsome features twisted into something ghastly. His skin grew pale, and his once bright eyes turned into hollow, sunken pits. His voice was now a low, haunting whisper. "I did not trick you. You saw what you wanted to see. You wanted a man of mystery, and now you will live with that choice. You are my wife, and you will stay with me in the land of the dead." Terror washed over Nena as the reality of her situation sunk in. She had married a ghost, a spirit who had come to the world of the living to claim her as his bride. The escape. For days, Nena was trapped in the spirit world, where the air was always cold, and the skies were forever gray. She was surrounded by eerie shadows and whispering winds, and Obina, now fully revealed as a ghost, would vanish for long periods, leaving her alone in the haunted forest. Desperate, Nena prayed to her ancestors for guidance. One night, while Obina was away, her late grandmother appeared to her in a dream. "Nena," her grandmother said, "you have made a grave mistake, but it is not too late. You must find your way back to the land of the living. There is a path, but it is dangerous." Her grandmother handed her a small charm made of dried herbs and cowries. "This will protect you from the spirits that guard the border between the two worlds. Follow the sound of the drum beats, and you will find the path home." When Nena awoke, the charm was in her hand. She wasted no time. As soon as Obina disappeared again, she followed the distant sound of drums that seemed to come from the heart of the forest. The further she went, the darker the forest grew, and ghostly figures began to emerge from the shadows, trying to block her path. But with the charm in her hand, she pushed forward, chanting the prayers her grandmother had taught her. Return to the living. After what felt like an eternity, Nena finally broke through the dark forest and stumbled into a clearing bathed in sunlight. She had made it back to the land of the living. Exhausted and terrified, she ran straight back to her village. Her family, who had been searching for her for days, rejoiced at her return. But Nena was not the same woman who had left. She had learned a powerful lesson about desire and the dangers of seeking only what is on the surface. From that day on, she vowed to live her life with wisdom, seeking not wealth or beauty, but kindness, honesty, and a pure heart. And whenever young women asked her for advice on marriage, she would smile and say, "Be careful what you wish for not every handsome man is truly alive." And so, the tale of Nena, the woman who married a ghost, was passed down from generation to generation, a warning to those who sought mystery over goodness. Nena's redemption. After Nena returned to the village, she struggled to find peace. Though she was safe, the memory of her time in the ghost world haunted her every day. She was plagued by strange dreams in which she would hear Obina's voice calling out to her from the shadows, reminding her of the vows they had exchanged. At first, Nena tried to carry on as though nothing had happened. She helped her mother in the kitchen, attended to her daily chores, and went to the village gatherings. But deep down she was no longer the same. She felt the weight of her choices pressing on her, and the whispers of the villagers didn't help. "That's the woman who married the ghost," they would say. "Can you imagine?" Nena could feel their stares, and though no one openly disrespected her, she knew they saw her differently. Her once joyful and carefree spirit became weighed down with guilt and regret. Seeking the village elder. Unable to bear the burden any longer, Nena decided to visit the wisest person in the village, the elder known as Nwaffer. He was old, with deep wrinkles etched into his face, and his eyes carried the knowledge of many generations. People said that Nwaffer could speak with the spirits and see beyond the physical world. When Nena arrived at his hut, she found him sitting under a large baobab tree, smoking his pipe and watching the horizon. "Great Nwaffer," Nena said, bowing respectfully, "I have come to seek your wisdom." Nwaffer nodded, motioning for her to sit. "I have been expecting you," he said calmly. "You carry a heavy burden, child. Tell me, what troubles your spirit?" With a trembling voice, Nena recounted the entire tale. How she had been seduced by Obina, the ghost, and how she had narrowly escaped the spirit world. She told him about the nightmares, the whispers in the village, and the guilt that weighed her down. When she finished, Nwaffer was silent for a long time, puffing thoughtfully on his pipe. Finally he spoke. "The path you chose was dangerous, but the ancestors have shown mercy by allowing you to return. However, you cannot ignore the fact that you broke a bond with the spirit world. Obina is not just a ghost. He is a restless soul. He has not forgotten you." Nena's heart skipped a beat. "What must I do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You must seek to right the wrong," Nwaffer said. "You must return to the spirit world once more, not to stay but to ask for forgiveness. Only then will you find peace. The journey begins." Though fear gripped her heart, Nena knew that Nwafer was right. She couldn't go on living in the shadow of her past. She had to face the spirit world again, but this time she would be prepared. Nwafer gave her a special potion made from the bark of sacred trees and the blood of a white goat. He told her to drink it at night, under the full moon. This potion will allow you to enter the spirit world on your own terms, he explained. But be careful. Time moves differently in that world. What seems like a day there could be weeks here. And you must not make any deals with the spirits, no matter how tempting. Nena took the potion and thanked the elder. That night, when the moon was full and bright, she went to the edge of the forest and sat in a clearing. With a deep breath, she drank the bitter liquid, closed her eyes, and began to chant the prayers her grandmother had taught her. Soon the world around her began to shift. The trees seemed to sway and blur, and a thick fog rolled in, enveloping her. Nena felt herself being pulled into the otherworldly realm, and when she opened her eyes, she was no longer in her village. Returned to the spirit world. The spirit world was just as she remembered it, cold, dark, and filled with eerie shadows that seemed to watch her from every corner. But this time, Nena was not as frightened. She clutched the charm her grandmother had given her and walked with purpose. As she ventured deeper into the forest, she began to hear Obina's voice again. "Nena," it whispered, "you have returned." Suddenly, Obina appeared before her, looking exactly as he had on their wedding day. Tall, handsome, and full of charm. But Nena knew better now. This was not the man she had loved, but a restless spirit who had trapped her once before. "I did not come to stay," Nena said firmly. "I came to make peace." Obina's eyes darkened, and his voice grew cold. "You broke our vows, Nena. You belong to me. Why do you fight it?" "I do not belong to you," she replied, her voice steady. "You deceived me. But I am not here to argue. I am here to seek forgiveness for both of us. You are a spirit trapped between worlds, and I am a woman trying to reclaim her life." Obina seemed to consider her words for a moment. The wind around them grew still, and the shadows that had been lurking in the corners seemed to recede. "Forgiveness," Bina said, his voice softer now. "It is not so easily given, Nena. You must let go of me," Nena said, stepping closer. "And I will let go of you. We were never meant to be. It was a mistake, born from desire and illusion. But it is time for both of us to move on." For a long moment, Obina stared at her, his face unreadable. Then, slowly, his form began to shift. The handsome exterior melted away, revealing a pale, skeletal figure with hollow eyes. Nena didn't flinch, though her heart raced. "I have been trapped here for so long," Obina said, his voice now a mere whisper. "I wanted to live again. Through you. You can find peace," Nena said gently, "but not by clinging to the living. Let go, and the ancestors will guide you to where you belong." Obina's hollow eyes gazed at her for what felt like an eternity, and then slowly he nodded. "Perhaps. You are right." As he spoke those words, his figure began to dissolve into the mist. The wind picked up, and the shadows seemed to swirl around him, carrying him away. For the first time, Nena felt a sense of calm wash over her. The weight she had been carrying seemed to lift, and the coldness of the spirit world began to fade. Returning to the living. When Nena awoke, she was lying in the clearing, bathed in the soft light of the morning sun. The fog had lifted, and the village was just visible in the distance. She felt different, lighter, freer. The nightmares were gone, and for the first time in a long time she felt at peace. As she walked back to the village, Nena knew that her journey had changed her. She had faced her past, confronted her mistakes, and found forgiveness, not just from Obina but from herself. When she arrived home, her mother embraced her tightly, sensing the change in her daughter. Nena smiled, knowing that she had been given a second chance, not just at life but at love. From that day forward, Nena lived with wisdom and compassion. She no longer sought wealth, mystery, or beauty in others, but looked for kindness, honesty, and a true heart. And whenever she told her story to the younger women in the village, she would say, The greatest mystery is the heart of a good person. That is the only mystery worth seeking. And so, the tale of Nenna, the woman who married a ghost and returned, became a legend that taught generations the value of humility, self-awareness, and the dangers of unchecked desire. Thanks for watching.